What's going on, people? Subscribe or die trying. Now, a lot of times I might say a statement or a comment and I won't elaborate on it. Well, actually, not a lot of times, almost all the time. I'll just say a statement and I'll let, whoever reads it pretty much determine what they think of it and what they think it means. And I do that on purpose, uh, because if I just say exactly, if I'm specific on exactly what it means to me or what my comment meant, it gives it a very narrow and concrete static view, as opposed to if I just say a statement and I let people view it as how they want to view it. It becomes you get a more broader view. Like I might say something and one person will think one thing, another person will think something totally opposite. But for both of them, it's something that might be funny to them. It might help them through the day. It might spark some type of thought that they didn't have before. So most of the times I'll sit and I'll just let people take it how they want to take it. Uh, but this in particular, someone asked me, uh, where did I get this thought from? And the thought was that friendship is kind of like a movie where people have different roles, but a lot of times when it's time when their part comes up and it's time to say their lines, they freeze, and then you have other people that nail it every time. Because some people will forget their lines, quote unquote, when it comes to being a friend. And so they asked me, like, what made me think of that. And so let me tell you the story. Back when I was a youth, back when I was in high school, I got jumped one time. Now, of course, there's always a story behind why something happened. So, of course, there's a story of why I got jumped. Uh, but I'm not going to get into that. But I will tell you this. Of course, I was totally innocent. Anyway, so I had an altercation maybe 10 to 15 minutes earlier, a verbal altercation with probably about 10 or 12 to 15 people. So after this altercation, uh, walking out. I'm walking out of the school, and it's me and my quote unquote friend, and we're walking, and so like we we probably walked probably a good 100 yards, something like that, and suddenly the people who I had the verbal altercation with, I guess they thought about some of the slick things that came out of my mouth and wasn't too happy about it, and so they came running after me. Now, well, let me rephrase that. They came running at me. I can't say after me because I wasn't running. I was just walking. So I'm walking with my friend, and I look at him, and I'm like, because you know what it is. And so I'm like, hey man, if they try to jump me, you gonna help? And his response was, I don't know. So I'm like, excuse me. Like, 'cause, the wind was blowing. I'm thinking maybe I'm not hearing him right, or like me, I chew a lot of gum, so I'm like maybe he got gum in his mouth or something. So maybe that's why it wasn't quite clear what he said. So I said, excuse me. I said, what did you say? And he's like, I don't know. Now, again, to this day, I'm not quite sure what he was saying, but the one thing I know for a fact, I know what he was not saying, and he wasn't saying yes. I know that. Now there's like 100 different things that he could have been saying, but the one thing I knew that he was not saying was yes, yes, I will help you. So after after that day, me and this guy never spoke again. Now I know you're probably thinking like, oh, that's harsh. Like y'all never spoke again, and that's bitter. But I wasn't bitter or mad about it. But I came to the realization that him as a friend was not beneficial in any way. Uh, because it's always easy to be somebody's friend when everything's going great. That's the easiest thing to do. You you joke, you laugh, you have cookouts. It's easy to be somebody's friend when everything's going great, but sometimes sometimes the role that you have to play is not always uh, a comedy, and it's not always a a lighthearted role. Sometimes you gotta play the movie that you're playing in is a drama, and sometimes you have to step it up and actually be a real friend. Because a lot of times being a friend is not the easiest thing to do. Sometimes being a friend, you don't have some of the decisions you have to make are not easy, but that is exactly what separates somebody from being your friend and somebody from being your associate. An associate is always going to be around when things are going great. A friend is going to be there making the tough decisions. After, me and my associate had our situation, that's how I came to that thought of how a friendship is like a movie. And when it came time for his role, and when it was time for him for his part, when his part came up and it was time for him to say his lines, he froze up. And you can't put that in the movie. Cut. We had to retake that. That's why I said, what did you say? Excuse me. And then on the second take, he had to mumble mouth again. And at this point in time, I had to get another actor because I mean I ain't got all day for this production. I got people running at me a hundred miles and running, and we ain't got all day to get this production right. So if you wanted to know, well, for you that actually asked me uh, why or how I came up with that thought, that is where the thought came from. And as a matter of fact, periodically I might even give you guys an insight on where some of these thoughts came from, because a lot of times the story is pretty crazy. And as you can see, I ended up a okay. I'm fine. No facial scars from my jumping. I survived. I hope you guys enjoyed the story, because I didn't enjoy living it. Peace.